Hello out there, folks. How are you doing? Thank you so much for joining me again. It has been one heck of a news week. So much has gone on. ISIS burns alive a Jordanian pilot. They released a video about that. I don't know if you saw that video. We'll be talking about that. Of course, Jordan responds to the murder of their pilot. Of course, Obama responds to the murder of the Jordanian pilot. We'll talk about that. We have some senators questioning this administration for one reason or another. Ashton Carter is trying to get confirmed as Secretary of Defense. We got some questioning from John McCain for him. That was some good stuff. We'll talk about that. We have Senator Tom Cotton. He was questioning Brian McKeon, who is Deputy Secretary of Defense for Policy. We'll talk about that. What is it with liberals making up stories of heroism and bravery? We'll talk about that. And does the Quran teach violence? We'll look into that this week on The Ray Warner Show. I am your host, Ray Warner. Thank you so much for listening in today. If you have any questions for me, any comments, any concerns, if you want to rant or vent, feel free. The email address is theraywarnershow@gmail.com. So the Islamic State, back in December, captured a pilot from Jordan. Muath al-Kasasbeh is his name. And what they did to this guy is just gruesome. Absolutely gruesome. And they released a video. I have seen the full 22-minute video. If you haven't seen it, every American needs to see this video. Every American needs to see the barbarism of this group. The video is very professional. It is very high quality. It's in documentary format. And I mean everything about the video, from the writing to the production, how it was sequenced, how the effects work together. There's lots of special effects. There's lots of sound effects. It kind of looks a lot like a video game at times, where if you're familiar with games at all, there's a heads-up display. If you don't speak the language, I mean, the entire video is in Arabic, and there's a lot of Arabic words, but there's a lot of visual aids that will take you through the video. And what it shows is how the Jordanian pilots all volunteered for their bombing missions. It starts out with that. It shows targets that the pilots were engaged in bombing. It shows bombing runs. It shows destruction. You see a lot of those. You've seen grainy videos from military strikes, where you see a building and then you see the explosion and things like that. It shows a lot of that. And Muath al-Kasasbeh describes in detail his mission. He is seated at a table wearing the orange jumpsuit. Of course, he's speaking Arabic, I assume. And you can tell from like I said, there's visual aids. You can tell from the visual aids and from the other special effects that he's describing his mission. He's describing the fighter jets, the armaments that different countries use. He's describing the bombing runs, the targets. And he asks at some point in the video, and I don't speak Arabic, I only know this from what I've read, but he asks in the video why the people of Jordan are fighting against Islam, instead when they should be bombing the Jews. Then it shows news reports of his bombing run when he was shot down. He was forced to eject and bail out of his plane. And of course, he was captured by Islamic State. We see Muath al-Kasasbeh walking in the rubble. And I'm assuming that this is the rubble that was from his own bombing run. I mean, it just seems like what they would do. But it's definitely rubble from someone's bombing mission. The place is completely bombed. It's intercut with scenes of emergency crews coming to the rescue after the bombing and digging up bodies, and it shows scenes of medical workers working on people that have been hurt in bombing runs. And so it just shows him walking, just freely walking amongst the rubble, still wearing the orange jumpsuit. He's surrounded by soldiers, what must be Islamic State militants. They're wearing desert camo, the brown desert camo. And then we see Mu'ath al-Qasasbeh in a cage. And we see his execution. This is some of the audio from that video. An executioner holds a torch, lights the torch, lights what appears to be flammable fluid on the ground that runs in a trail directly to the cage. The cage is, the perimeter of the cage has the fluid, and there's an X in the cage that has the fluid. So he has nowhere to go. He's in the cage. And you see the flame come in and just engulf him in flames. And of course, when we see him in the orange jumpsuit in the cage, his jumpsuit is already stained with some kind of fluid. What must be flammable fluid. And Mu'ath al-Qasasbeh, you see him flail a little bit, not very long, dances around, holding his head, and just burned alive in this cage. This is what they did to this Jordanian pilot. There's chanting going on, some kind of got to be Islamic chanting happening as we see the Jordanian pilot engulfed in flames. And then the video moves on. After the pilot's murder, the video moves on to name other pilots in the Jordanian military. It names them, and it shows maps from, looks like Google Earth maps of their location, puts their location on the screen, calls for people out there to join in the fight and take out these other Jordanian fighters. And by the way, this was after the Islamic State called for the release of the female terrorist. Don't have her name in front of me. This female terrorist was on a suicide mission and her vest didn't go off. She's a would-be suicide bomber. They called for her release, and Jordan said they would release her. Jordan agreed to the exchange. And I can see this. I can see a prisoner swap in two fighting people. Not the way Obama traded 5, top-ranking Al-Qaeda agents for a deserter, Bo Bergdahl. That's kind of different. I can see this swap taking place. I can see, one of yours for one of ours kind of thing. One that we want back. One that didn't just walk off and leave his buddies to die. And Jordan agreed. They agreed to the swap. And all they asked for was proof of life, because they already believed the Jordanian pilot was dead. And of course, reports are that the Jordanian pilot was killed back sometime in early January. So they were lying about him still being alive or being able to trade him. And this video, the post-production value of the video, it had to have taken that much time to create. So Jordan, in response, executes the woman they asked for back. They hanged her the next day, along with another terrorist that they had in their custody. So they killed 2 for ISIS killing the one. And then said that the response would be earth-shaking. And indeed it has. Jordan has been pounding the Islamic State ever since. And I mean pounding. Of course, Islamic State is now reporting that an American hostage has been killed in the Jordanian bombardment. Who knows? Who knows if they're telling the truth or not? Jordan says that they will fight until they run out of bullets. So I like the way this Jordanian king has responded. Isn't that nice? Isn't that refreshing to see a leader actually lead? Isn't it refreshing to see that there is now a leader in the fight against the Islamic State? This guy he has taken the right course. This guy jumped right on course. He ain't putting up with this crap. He is taking the fight right back to the Islamic State and is vowing to avenge the death of their pilot, the murder of their pilot. So he took the right course, unlike Obama, who after the beheading of James Foley, within 10 minutes took to the golf course. There's plenty more to cover, folks. Stay there. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Ray Warner Show. Resistance is futile.
What makes the miracles of Jesus even more miraculous? Standing where they happened, in Israel. Come explore Jerusalem, where Jesus opened blind eyes. Visit the hills of Galilee, where Jesus fed the multitude. Stroll through Capernaum, where Jesus lived and taught and healed. To learn more about standing where it all happened in Israel, visit www.goisrael.com. Come visit Israel.
You'll never be the same.
21 Signs of Doomsday. God said, mansaid.com. Noah's Ark, fact or fiction. Geologists say yes to crucifixion. Science says eat butter. God said, mansaid.com. Scientists study speaking in tongues. Hours of text and audio. God said, mansaid.com. Doctors flummox for what they found in female brains. St. Peter's fish, hellworms, extraterrestrials amongst us. God said, mansaid.com.
Welcome back, folks. Thank you so much for listening. This is The Ray Warner Show. I am your host, Ray Warner. If you want to email the show, if you have any questions, any comments, any feedback, feel free. The email address is theraywarnershow@gmail.com. Now, in the aftermath of this video, this gruesome murder of the Jordanian pilot by Islamic State, of course, you have the usual suspects. You got a bunch of liberals coming forward talking about how this is not Islamic. ISIS is not Islamic. The Islamic State is not Islamic. These actions are not Islamic. Islam is a religion of peace. Blah, blah, blah. Fareed Zakaria goes by Fareed Zakaria GPS over there on CNN. This is what he had to say about this brutal murder of the Jordanian pilot by Islamic State.
It's a huge mistake. What ISIL is doing, or the Islamic State is doing, is they are revealing that they don't have ideological appeal. They're not, they're not getting people interested through their ideas and ideology and religious beliefs. It's through fear and intimidation. This has nothing to do with Islam, as you've pointed out, Jake. The burning of a body, dead or alive, is very un-Islamic.
Well, I disagree. I beg to differ, Fareed. It is profoundly Islamic. It is profoundly Islamic to seek revenge. It is profoundly Islamic to kill anyone that doesn't believe in Islam. And if you're Islamic, that's what the Quran teaches. The Islamic State made a huge mistake by producing this video because it shows that they cannot appeal through their ideology. They can't win elections. They have no good ideas. They conquer, and they all they want to do is strike people with fear. Well, that's what it's all about, Fareed. That's what that's what the Islamic threat, that's what the caliphate is all about. It's all about forcing the world into submission under Islam, under Sharia law. That's what it is. The Islamic State is just taking up this mantle and trying to make that happen. Profoundly un-Islamic. What is more Islamic than fighting the infidel? How many times does it say in the Quran to fight the infidel? So then President Obama, he chimes in with his own response. He used the National Prayer Breakfast as an opportunity to give a speech and called on Christians to be tolerant. And he likens what the Islamic State is doing as Christians fighting in the name of Christ. Listen to this garbage.
And so how do we, as people of faith, reconcile these realities? The profound good, the strength, the tenacity, the compassion and love that can flow from all of our faiths, operating alongside those who seek to hijack religious for their own murderous ends. Humanity's been grappling with these questions throughout human history. And lest we get on our high horse and think this is unique to some other place, remember that during the Crusades and the Inquisition, people committed terrible deeds in the name of Christ.
He's going on about the Spanish Inquisition, about the Crusades. The Crusades were over 1,000 years ago, number one. Number two, that was the Catholic Church. Now, I know that the Catholic Church believes it's operating in the name of Christ. But those of us that are believers in the Word of God understand that's the Catholic Church. That's not people functioning in the name of Christ. That's not people acting in the name of Christ. That's people acting in the name of Catholicism. That's number two. Number three, I don't care if it was Catholic. I don't care if it was Buddhist. I don't care who they were. The Crusades were a response to the Islamic threat of that day. The Muslims they conquered in Spain. They conquered North Africa. They were trying to conquer the world. The Crusades were a response to that. Otherwise, we would all be Islam by now, if not for the Crusades. Not to mention, if he's going to talk about people doing things in the name of Christ, well, then what is he saying? Is this about religion or is it not? Because as far as we've heard from this administration before, these are just a bunch of guys. They're just a bunch of violent extremists with no ideology. They're not doing this in the name of Islam. They're not doing this in the name of Muhammad, in the name of Allah. They invoke that after the fact, right? Isn't that what we've heard from these people? So does this have a religious context or not? Because if it does, then this is tantamount to admission, what President Obama is saying, that what they are doing is Islamic in nature. Or he didn't say the word Islamic, but he's saying it's religious in nature. We'll just go that far. Is he willing to say that finally? But he went on.
We should start with some basic humility. I believe that the starting point of faith is some doubt. Not being so full of yourself and so confident that you are right and that God speaks only to us and doesn't speak to others. That God only cares about us and doesn't care about others. That somehow we alone are in possession of the truth. Our job is not to ask that God respond to our notion of truth. Our job is to be true to Him, His word and His commandments. And we should assume humbly that we're confused and don't always know what we're doing, and we're staggering and stumbling towards Him.
Now the most arrogant man on the planet is going to lecture us on humility. He wants Christians to question. We're supposed to question what we believe. We should start our journey to faith with doubt. Where have I heard this before? You know, another historical event is coming to mind. It started out with the words, "Yea, hath God said." For those of you that don't know, that's from Genesis 3. That's when the serpent was planting seeds of doubt in Eve's mind. Yea, hath God said. This is what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to proceed from doubt about our God, from doubt about His word. So now we know the mindset. Now we know where he's coming from. He's coming from the same angle the serpent came from. We need to start off with doubt. Where's that going to get us? It didn't work out well the last time. It's not going to work out well again. We need to stand strong and know in whom we believe. And we don't want to kill these people. We don't want to fight the Islamic State. We don't want to fight a caliphate. We don't want a crusade. But we may have to. Barack the first. It may be thrust upon us, and then what? We're going to have to defend ourselves. That's what the Crusades were all about. And, speaking about the Crusades, Osama bin Laden called the United States Crusaders. These people in the Islamic State, they call us Crusaders. They said that Mu'adh al-Qasasbeh was a crusader pilot. I told you at the end of the video that it shows other pilots and shows where they live and all that. It actually puts up, it says Crusader ID. That's the little graphic it puts up. It says Crusader ID with a photo, and it's got their birthday and their address and a map of their location and tells you to go get them. Crusader ID. These people are still in these dark ages about the Crusades. They didn't learn the lesson then. And unfortunately, there appears to be no one, except the King of Jordan, that's going to teach it to them now. That pilot was a Muslim, by the way, and that didn't matter. Didn't matter to ISIS that he was a Muslim. Now, as I said, we had John McCain was questioning the Defense Department nominee Ashton Carter about ISIS strategy. Now, this guy, if they confirm this guy, Ashton Carter, I have a feeling he could beat Joe Biden as the new gaffe machine. Listen to this guy. This is awesome.
Do you have a position on the withdrawal from Iraq? Do you believe that it should be calendar-based as it is now, or should we be looking at the conditions on the ground to base those decisions?
The campaign in Afghanistan has been close to my heart for all the time that I've been associated with the Department of Defense. I've been there a number of times. I think that success is possible there, but as you indicate, requires the United States to continue its campaign and finish the job. I understand we have a plan. The President has a plan. I support that plan. At the same time, it's a plan.
Did you catch that? Here it is, edited down. Listen again.
Do you have a position on the withdrawal from Iraq?
The campaign in Afghanistan has been close to my heart.
So are we talking about Iraq or Afghanistan? Because Senator John McCain is asking about Iraq, and Carter is responding about Afghanistan. I'm not exactly sure what's going on here, but you'll see this theme. I mean, McCain is still talking about Iraq. You'll see this continue for some reason. Once we get this guy on the same page, maybe he'll be able to answer a question. We'll see.
In his testimony to the committee this week, Dr. Kissinger said, quote, "In the Middle East, a multiple of evils are unfolding simultaneously. Iran has exploited this turmoil to pursue positions of power within other countries." Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I do.
Well, good answer. Do you agree with that? Yeah, I do. That's it. Yeah, who's pulling this guy's string? Just pull the string on his back. Yeah, I do. Yes, I agree with you. Here's the next question.
Do you believe that we need to have a strategy to combat ISIS and the continued successes in many respects that they are achieving?
Absolutely.
Do you agree we need a strategy to combat ISIS? Absolutely. Boy, is this guy a poet or what? This guy is awesome. I love this guy. Here's the next question.
Do you believe we have a strategy at this time?
I believe I understand our strategy at this time, Mr. Chairman. I also have the intention, again, if confirmed, to make it my first priority to go there, to talk to our leaders, military leaders there, to confer with you.
What do you understand the strategy to be?
And to, I think the a strategy connects ends and means, and our ends with respect to ISIL needs to be its lasting defeat. I say lasting because it's important that when they get defeated, they stay defeated. And that is why it's important that we have those on the ground there who will ensure that they stay defeated once defeated.
Oh, see, he should have stuck with his strategy of giving the one-word answers. He tries to form a sentence and he gets all tripped up. So McCain asks, "What is the strategy?" And this guy, ISIS needs to be defeated and stay defeated. And that's why I'm going to go there and find out how to keep them defeated. And that's why, Mr. Chairman, we need people on the ground to make sure that they stay defeated once they're defeated. I mean, is this priceless or what? What did that guy? What is that? What did he say? This is his understanding of the strategy. His understanding of the strategy is we need to defeat ISIS, and then when we defeat them, they need to stay defeated. That's his understanding of the strategy. And where do they come up with these people? This is really the best and the brightest. Seriously, this is Obama's nominee to head up the Department of Defense. God help us all. Now, Senator Tom Cotton, Republican, Arkansas, he was questioning Brian McKeon, who is the Deputy Secretary of Defense for Policy, and he's talking to him about Gitmo and about what happens with Gitmo detainees once they're released. Listen to this.
I want to explore the so-called risk balance between recidivism of released terrorists and the propaganda value that terrorists get from Guantanamo Bay. How many recidivists are there at Guantanamo Bay right now?
I'm not sure I follow the question.
How many detainees at Guantanamo Bay are engaging in terrorism or anti-American excitement?
They're pretty locked down. I don't
because
think
they're detained because they only engage in that kind of recidivism overseas.
Now, isn't that priceless? I love this guy's reaction. Cotton asks him, how many recidivists are at Gitmo right now? I don't understand the question. Yeah, see, and Cotton's point is clear. When we're talking about recidivism, it only can happen when they're let out, when they're set free. Duh. How many recidivists are in Gitmo? None. When we keep them in Gitmo, they don't go back to the battlefield. When they don't go back to the battlefield, they don't kill American troops. So I think Cotton's point is clear. They can't return to the fight when they stay at Gitmo. Duh. And then, of course, he addressed the nonsense that Gitmo serves as a recruitment tool. Listen to this.
Now, let's look at the propaganda value. How many detainees were at Guantanamo Bay on September 11th, 2001?
0.
How many were there in October 2000 when Al-Qaeda bombed the USS Cole?
0.
What about in 1998 when they bombed our embassies?
The facility was not open before 2002, Senator.
1993 in the first World Trade Center bombing.
Same answer.
1979 when Iran took over our embassy. 1983 when Hezbollah bombed our embassy and our Marine barracks in Lebanon. The answer is 0.
Correct.
Islamic terrorists don't need an excuse to attack the United States. They don't attack us for what they do. They attack us for who we are. It is not a security decision. It is a political decision based on a promise the President made on his campaign. To say that it is a security decision based on propaganda value that our enemies get from it is a pretext to justify a political decision. In my opinion, the only problem with Guantanamo Bay is there are too many empty beds and cells there right now. We should be sending more terrorists there for further interrogation to keep this country safe. As far as I'm concerned, every last one of them can rot in hell. But as long as they don't do that, then they can rot in Guantanamo Bay. Again, Cotton's point is clear. Huh? How many people were in Gitmo on 9/11? 0. How many people were in Gitmo in 93 when they bombed the World Trade Center? 0. How about in 79 when they took over the embassy? 0. The bombing of the USS Cole? 0. These Islamist nut jobs do not need Gitmo as an excuse to attack us, bomb us, or recruit new fighters. So he just puts that argument to bed once and for all. We need fewer liberals in Congress and more people that actually can think clearly, like this guy, Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas. We'll be right back. Stay there, folks.
You are listening to The Ray Warner Show.
A creative experience unlike any other is waiting for you at Hobby Lobby. Arts and crafts, fabric, scrapbooking, floral, home accents, and so much more. Come and explore Hobby Lobby and find more than you could have ever imagined. Inspiration, innovation, and creation all in one place. Everything you need to bring your creativity to life is here at Hobby Lobby.
Our healthcare premiums are out of control. I'm not sure what we're going to do.
Haven't you heard about MediShare? It isn't insurance. It's a nationwide network of Christians who save money by sharing each other's medical bills. We get to pick our own doctors, and our share is almost 40% less than our old premium.
But what about the new law?
Well, MediShare is a health-sharing ministry, which makes it exempt from the health reform laws.
If you're a Christian and a non-smoker, log on or call to see how you could start saving on healthcare today. Call 1-866-330-8585 or visit meta-share.org. You do have a choice.
Even call centers, which rushed overseas in the hundreds of thousands. How many times you get the call? I'd like to talk to you about your credit card, okay? Or that ad on TV. What is it, Nancy? This is Nancy. Can I talk to a supervisor, right? Okay. Well, it's a little overdone, but the truth of the matter is, these jobs now are paying about $19.50 an hour, if memory serves me.
You cannot go to a 7-Eleven or a Dunkin' Donuts unless you have a slight Indian accent.
You know, I'm embarrassed. You know the website number? I should have it in front of me, and I don't. I'm saying too much already.
A man who will be the next president of the United States, Barack America. I'm a United States Senator and a Vice President of the United States for one reason. Because I was educated. I was educated.
As Barack says, a three-letter word, jobs. J-O-B-S, jobs.
To those, quote, survivors, my God, you have survived and you have soared. It was worth it. I mean it sincerely.
Look at their budget and what they're proposing. Romney wants to he said in the first 100 days, he's going to let the big banks once again write their own rules. Unchain Wall Street. They're going to put you all back in chains. Don't screw around with me. These guys get me going a little bit. And you're going to have trouble translating all this because the poor lady, she's going to have tendinitis by the time she finishes. And I also am told that Chuck Graham, state senator, is here. Chuck, stand up, Chuck. Let him see you. Oh, God love you. What am I talking about? I tell you what, you're making everybody else stand up, though, pal. Thank you very, very much. I tell you what, stand up for Chuck. You can tell I'm new. Speak softly and carry a big stick. I promise you, the president has a big stick. I promise you.
I mean, you got the first sort of mainstream African American who was articulate and bright and clean and a nice looking guy. I mean, that's a storybook, man.
And I knew somebody famous was going to come out of Scranton, and I sure in hell knew it wasn't going to be me.
I have more to say.
Shut up!
Welcome back. Thank you so much for still being here. This is The Ray Warner Show. I am your host, Ray Warner. If you want to email the show, if you have any questions, any comments, any feedback, feel free. The email address is theraywarnershow@gmail.com. Folks, you are not going to believe what just happened. I am here in my studio, minding my own business, when all of a sudden, the glass shatters behind me. The window shattered behind me. And what it is there was some sniper fire that was aimed at me. Luckily, I heard it and I got out of the way in time. But really, it was a harrowing experience. And oh, wait a minute. No, that's not what happened. No, now I remember. What happened during the break is I went and got a glass of water. That's what happened. Sorry about that. I was just confused. Whew. For a minute there, I thought I was in some serious danger. Of course, I'm being facetious. But Mr. Brian Williams was not being facetious when he went on David Letterman and told this story.
We were in some helicopters. What we didn't know was we were north of the invasion. 2 of our 4 helicopters were hit. by ground fire, including the one I was in.
No kidding.
RPG and AK-47.
What altitude were you hit at?
We were only at 100 feet doing 100 forward knots because we had these massive pieces of bridge beneath us on slings.
What happens the minute everybody realizes you've been hit?
We figure out how to land safely, and we did. We landed very quickly and hard, and we put down, and we were stuck. 4 birds in the middle of the desert, and we were north out ahead of the other Americans. So we got hit, we sat down, everyone was okay. Our captain took a Purple Heart injury to his ear in the cockpit, but we were alone.
Now, you should know, this is only one instance of Brian Williams telling this lie. He has told it time and time again. In fact, this goes back something like more than 12 years. He has lied about it and lied about it and lied about it on the air, off the air, on Twitter. And some American military personnel who know the truth of what happened are tired of hearing about the lie. So now, having been called out about it, this is the apology he was forced to issue.
On this broadcast last week, in an effort to honor and thank a veteran who protected me and so many others after a ground fire incident in the desert during the Iraq War invasion, I made a mistake in recalling the events of 12 years ago. It did not take long to hear from some brave men and women in the air crews who were also in that desert. I want to apologize. I said I was traveling in an aircraft that was hit by RPG fire. I was instead in a following aircraft. We all landed after the ground fire incident and spent 2 harrowing nights in a sandstorm in the Iraq desert. This was a bungled attempt by me to thank one special veteran and, by extension, our brave military men and women, veterans everywhere, those who have served while I did not. I hope they know they have my greatest respect, and also now my apology.
Okay, so now it wasn't me, it wasn't my helicopter that was hit with RPG fire. It was the one in front of me. Now I remember. Yeah, the one in front of him. What really happened is, yes, there was a helicopter convoy. Yes, the helicopter in front of him was hit. He was in the helicopter that was behind the helicopter that was hit. His helicopter was 1 hour behind the helicopter that was hit. He wasn't even in the vicinity of the helicopter that was hit. That's the real story. What is it with liberals and making up stories of heroism? How many times did we have to listen to this garbage?
I certainly do remember that trip to Bosnia, and as Togo said, there was a saying around the White House that if a place was too small, too poor, or too dangerous, the president couldn't go, so send the First Lady. And that's where we went. And I remember landing under sniper fire. There was supposed to be some kind of a greeting ceremony at the airport, but instead we just ran with our heads down to get into the vehicles to get to our base.
When we were flying into Bosnia, we had to, part of the reason we were in the C-17 is because part of it is armored. I was moved up into the cockpit. Everyone else was told to sit on their bulletproof vests, you recall that. And we came in a evasive maneuver. Those of you who've been on C-17s or C-130s know that one of their great characteristics is that they can take off very quickly and they can maneuver agilely to avoid incoming fire. There was no greeting ceremony, and we basically were told to run to our cars. Now that is what happened.
So there you hear Hillary Clinton lie about the grave danger she survived. She lied about that several times. Even her daughter Chelsea tried to cover for her.
I support what she said. I mean, yes, I was there as well, and I'm so honored that I was there with her and that I had the opportunity to travel with her.
She, of course, she's new to the whole Clinton lying game. She's not as good at it, as you can tell. Sharyl Attkisson, reporter we've mentioned many times on this show, she was with Hillary Clinton when this happened. And this is her recollection of that event.
I had come home from an overseas trip, vacation, without my husband. I think I just went with my daughter, and I come back, and my husband says, when you went to Bosnia 12 years ago with the First Lady, were you shot at? And I'm like, no. He's like, are you sure? I'm like, yes. I mean, he said that. I'm like, I think I would know if we were shot at. And he said, well, Hillary Clinton is going around talking and saying you guys were shot at by snipers and she had to duck and run to the car. I'm like, no, she must have made another trip there because she's not talking about our trip. On our trip, Chelsea Clinton was on the plane, Sinbad, Sheryl Crow were on the plane because they were coming there to entertain the troops. It was a lovely thing. Yes, there was a chance. I mean, it was a hostile area, and they told us there was a slight chance there could be hostilities, but if anybody had shot at us, you know, this was just I can't say vacation. She called it a work trip, but it wasn't someplace she had to be. We would have landed somewhere else if somebody was shooting at us. We wouldn't have landed amid sniper fire and run to a car. So I pull out. I don't save my story notes and tapes for very long. I have so much material. I have to purge it and make room for new stuff. But I still have the video from that time. And the video showed, and I thought this was a pretty good way to explain it, I put her in a box saying we got off the plane and we had to duck and run for cover and there was sniper fire. And then I showed the video of what was really happening, and she's getting off the plane and she's waving, shaking hands with a little schoolgirl. So there are two choices. She either wasn't telling the truth or she misremembered so drastically. How do you make up in your head that you were shot at when you weren't? And either of those to me is pretty serious.
So there was no sniper fire. There was no danger. There was, they were told, that there might be something, somewhere. Yeah, somewhere on the planet, somebody is pointing a rifle somewhere. So, we just want to make sure you're safe. No, she did not have to duck and cover and run. No, the ceremony was not moved indoors. There were children out there on the tarmac. There was an entire 7th grade class out there on the tarmac to meet Mrs. Clinton. She spent a great deal of time out there talking with these people, talking with military personnel, her daughter Chelsea by her side the whole way. There was no danger whatsoever. So what on earth is she remembering about having to run to the vehicles with their heads down? What is that? Other than just a flat-out lie. She, of course, has since stated, well, I was sleep-deprived, and I misremember. No, you didn't you don't misremember being shot at. You don't misremember that. That's called a lie. Like, that's what it is. It's a lie. Brian Williams lied. You lied. What is it with liberals? John Kerry. How many Purple Hearts does he have? Because he was goofing off. There was no enemy nearby, but he was goofing off with his grenade launcher, and when he fired it, he slipped and fell and scratched his leg on the side of the boat. So he got a Purple Heart. He wrote himself up for a Purple Heart because he couldn't find anyone else to do it. That was one of his Purple Hearts. I mean, what is it with these people? John McCain was tortured in Vietnam. You ever notice John McCain cannot raise his arms up above his shoulders? Whenever he tries to raise his arms, it looks really awkward. His arms they're out to the side or they're forward, and he tries to give a thumbs up or whatever. You don't ever see him raise his arms above his shoulders, and that's because he can't, because he was tortured in Vietnam. Did you know that George H.W. Bush, Bush 41, did you know this? In 1944, he was a pilot during World War II that went on bombing runs. He was shot down and forced to bail out of his aircraft. And he floated out there in the Pacific for a few hours and finally was rescued. Some people from his squadron didn't make it home that day, but he did. Did you know that? I bet you didn't even know that. These are people that don't have to make up stories of heroism and all this stuff. I don't understand why do liberals feel they need to lie about everything? Why? I don't understand it. I served in the military. My life was never in danger. There, I said it. The most danger I was ever in the military was that time I argued with a drill sergeant. That was the most danger I was ever in. Now, I keep telling you that the Quran does instruct its readers to kill people. This happens over 100 times in the Quran. Well over 100 times. And it's not in defense. The Quran tells people to go and find unbelievers. It tells them to chop off their heads, to chop off their fingers. It tells them to do these things. In the Old Testament, people say, well, what about the Bible? The Bible's got violence in it. Well, sure. There's some violence in the Old Testament. The violence in the Old Testament is directed. It's usually directed at sin. It's God judging sin. The Quran, let's see, kill them wherever you find them, and turn them out from where they have turned you out. If they desist, then lo, Allah is forgiving and merciful. Those who believe fight in the cause of Allah. Fighting is prescribed for you, but if ye dislike it, it is possible ye dislike a thing which is good for you. I got so many of these here. Not equal are those believers who sit at home and receive no hurt, and those who strive and fight in the cause of Allah. It makes the distinction between those Islamists that go and fight and those who do not. Cast terror into the hearts of those who disbelieve. Strike off their heads and every fingertip of them. How can you interpret this? I've heard the whole jihad is an internal struggle thing. It's like your internal spiritual struggle. That's supposed to be what the jihad is. Strike off their heads and their fingertips. How do you interpret that as an internal struggle? There's so many of these I have here. Slay the idolaters wherever you find them. Take them captive. Besiege them. Lie in wait for them. Fight those who believe not in Allah. I could go on and on and on. I've got a bunch of them here. But just for kicks, I went to the websites that try to show the Bible to be just as violent. And what I found is amazing. It talks about the flood, when God promises, I will destroy all flesh, every creeping thing. But that was God doing the judging. All he did in the flood, all Noah did was, he told Noah how to survive. Sodom and Gomorrah, again, it was God doing the judging. Egypt, smiting Egypt with all my wonders. Again, it was God carrying out his vengeance and his wrath. All of these things. Anytime God used people to carry out his vengeance, which is something he did, he even referred to Israel as his battle axe. They were told for a specific reason to do a specific thing. They were told where to fight. They were told how to fight. They were told how to march. They were told how to assemble. They were told how to camp. And when it was done, it was done. It was very specific. It wasn't just open-ended, slay the idolaters wherever you find them. That is so open-ended, it's outrageous. So yes, the Quran definitely tells its readers to go kill people. And that's going to do it for this week, folks. Thank you again so much for listening. This is The Ray Warner Show. I am Ray Warner, your host. If you want to email me, if you have any questions, any comments, any problems with something I've said, feel free. The email address is theraywarnershow@gmail.com. And just so you know, I don't know how you listen, but there are any number of ways you can listen to The Ray Warner Show and the Daily Quick Reports, and you should listen to the Daily Quick Reports. You can subscribe at theraywarnershow.com. If you do, you'll get a link in your email. You can subscribe to the Ray Warner Show YouTube channel. Every show is posted on Facebook. Every show is posted on the Twitter. You can go to iTunes. The shows are posted there. You can subscribe at iTunes. And if you like what you hear, tell your friends. Let's build this audience. Thanks again for listening, folks, and we'll see you next week. So long.